The story of this film starts in the heart of a thick jungle. In the midst of this wilderness, there stood a house where a small family resided. This family consisted of a mother and her 2 children, Sam and Nolan. They had been living here for quite a while, as the mother believed that the world outside was no longer safe. According to her, a terrible force had destroyed everything, spreading like a virus, and this force was known as evil. Evil was a shape-shifting entity capable of changing its appearance to deceive humans. Once it touched someone, that person would lose all control, become violent, and start killing those around them. The entity's only goal was to trick humans into getting close enough to touch it, spreading chaos and devastation across the world. However, this family had managed to survive. They had designed their home in a way that allowed them to protect themselves from evil. While this entity could roam freely and cause destruction anywhere, it couldn't enter their house. For safety, the family used ropes connected to the house to venture outside. These ropes served as a barrier that evil could neither touch nor break, ensuring the family's safety. As long as they stayed tied to the rope, they remained safe from the entity's touch. The family managed to live in the middle of this dangerous jungle, relying on the ropes to help them find food. Nearby, they had a greenhouse where they grew fruits and vegetables. Despite their precautions, evil was always lurking nearby, and the mother was the only one who could see it. Sam and Nolan had never encountered it, but their mother had warned them about it. She explained that evil could appear as an animal, and they wouldn't be able to recognize it as the entity. She made it clear that if they ever ventured outside without the rope and came in contact with evil, everything would be over. Life was difficult for this small family. The jungle provided limited resources, and food was always scarce. The mother had a dog, but she could only feed it small amounts, as the food they had was insufficient to share. To keep her children safe and aware of the dangers, the mother established strict rules that she constantly reminded them of. She also told them stories to help them understand how perilous the world outside was, reinforcing the need for caution. My father was also touched by evil, which forced me to make the heartbreaking decision to kill him. This evil has appeared before me countless times, sometimes taking the form of my father, other times as my mother or even my husband. Once, it appeared as a little girl, pretending to be hurt, but I didn't fall for her act. I knew what she truly was, so I ended her life without hesitation. Evil can be deceiving, and I had learned that the hard way. That night, after we had gone to sleep, the sound of a frog croaking outside kept my mother awake. She went out to investigate, but there was no frog to be found. It became clear to her that this was the work of evil. And then, she saw it, the terrifying form of evil itself. It was an image so horrifying it struck fear into her heart, but despite her fear, she ignored it and returned inside. This moment showed us just how dangerous and relentless evil could be, and how every day was a fight for survival. The next morning, my mother decided to take us into the jungle to gather food. Before we left, she prayed, asking that our home continue to protect us. In the jungle, she searched for whatever food she could find. Frogs, small animals, anything edible. The winters made things even more difficult, and they had to make do with whatever they could get. Even what seemed inedible had to be consumed out of necessity. As we ventured deeper into the jungle, the differences between my brother Sam and I became clear. Sam was fully devoted to following the rules our mother set. He believed in everything she told us, trusting that the dangers outside were real. But I, Nolan, wasn't as sure. I often had doubts. I secretly broke the rules sometimes, wondering if the evil was really as dangerous as Mom said, or if she was just using fear to control us. I questioned whether the outside world had truly ended, and if it was as deadly as she made it out to be. I had asked my mother many times about the evil and its nature. Each time, she assured me that the evil was a trick of the devil, trying to plant doubt in my mind. She warned that if I questioned her, I would be putting myself in danger. If you go outside without following the rules, it will hunt you, she would say. But as we searched for food, I couldn't shake my curiosity. I needed to know what was really out there. And then, as we were looking for food, I found something that piqued my interest, an egg of a frog. As they were out in the jungle, one of the eggs fell to the ground. Nolan saw it but quickly realized his rope wasn't long enough to reach it. If he wanted to grab it, he'd have to untie the rope and venture down, but Sam stopped him. If you untie the rope, evil will come for you, Sam warned. For a moment, Nolan hesitated, and at his brother's insistence, he decided against opening the rope. However, frustration began to build in Nolan. As he was about to leave, his foot accidentally stepped on Sam's rope, which caused it to loosen. In a split second, Sam fell, getting his foot caught in the roots of a tree and injuring himself. With the rope now stuck, Nolan couldn't help him. Panicking, Nolan whistled loudly, hoping his mother would hear and come to the rescue. His mother heard the whistle and immediately began rushing toward them, tying herself to the rope to climb down. But she soon reached the end of the rope and realized she couldn't go any further. In desperation, she untied herself, hurriedly descending to help Sam. Together, they managed to get back to the top with Sam, though his injury seemed severe. But then, as they were returning, something terrifying happened. They saw an old, decrepit woman, evil in disguise, with a strange tongue. She began advancing toward them, but just in time, their mother tied herself and the children securely with a rope. Evil was visible only to her. The children couldn't see it, but they noticed how tense and fearful their mother was, sensing that something was wrong. Realizing evil was nearby, they followed their mother back home. Once inside, their mother was furious with them for breaking the rules. She scolded them, but deep down, she wanted to test whether they remembered the rules. If they had forgotten them, it could mean that evil had taken control of their minds. After checking that both Sam and Nolan still remembered the rules, she sighed in relief, though Sam's injury was serious. His leg was badly hurt, possibly even broken. At home, their mother had created a secret basement-like room where she would lock the children to help them understand the gravity of their situation. The confinement was meant to make them think about evil, to feel its presence and fear it, because fear, she believed, was what kept them alive in this dangerous world. Whenever their mother was outside, evil would always appear in different forms to try to deceive and trap her. On this particular day, evil took the form of her husband, attempting to lure her into a trap. But she managed to avoid it, knowing better after everything they'd been through. As time passed, Nolan's doubts grew stronger. He began questioning everything he had been told. When your rope came untied, Nolan asked Sam, "Did you feel or see anything strange?" Sam replied, "I don't remember anything." Nolan, however, was certain. "I didn't feel anything strange or see anything out of the ordinary. So, I don't think there's any evil. Maybe it's all in Mom's imagination. Who knows? The outside world might still be there." But Sam wasn't interested in his brother's doubts. He had complete faith in their mother. Nolan, struggling with a sleep disorder, had bells tied to his feet by his mother to keep track of him while he slept. This way, if he ever woke up and wandered outside in his sleep, the bells would alert her. One day, while talking, their mother shared her past with them. "I used to live in the city before all of this began," she said. "I was a different person then. But when the world ended, I changed completely, just like everything else. I came here because it's the only place we can survive." Her mother had a snake tattoo on her neck, and she explained, "I've seen evil in the form of a snake many times. That's why I got this tattoo, so that evil wouldn't recognize me." Nolan, still skeptical, asked, "Mom, it's possible other people are still alive. How could our house be so special?" His mother's response was firm. "You should be thankful you're alive, son. Don't think too much. This house is the only thing that keeps us safe." Days passed slowly, and food became scarce. Their mother forced them to eat tree leaves and branches, even though it was difficult for them. They had no choice but to survive. One night, Nolan had a terrible dream where evil was dragging him into a well. When he woke up, it was night, and to his shock, he found himself outside the house, without the rope. He must have sleepwalked out. As he stood there confused, his mother quickly came outside and brought him back in. She tested him, asking questions to make sure he hadn't been influenced by evil. Then she locked him away, hoping that the fear of evil would purify his soul, as she believed that fear was necessary for survival. But after this incident, Nolan became certain that there was no evil. If there had been, it would have killed him that night. He shared his thoughts with Sam, saying, "We need to leave here, Sam. I believe the world is still out there, and there's no danger. Mom has gone mad. She won't leave this place, but if we stay here, we'll die of hunger." Sam hesitated. "But Mom, what about her? We can't leave her alone here." While they were talking, their mother stood outside, listening to their conversation. The pain in her heart was evident, but she didn't let it show. The next morning, she showed them old pictures and a camera. With the camera, she took a new photo of herself and her children, fearing that one day they might leave her. She then told them, "I'm very sorry to say this, but we've run out of food. We need to kill the dog and eat it. It will keep us alive for a month." Nolan was devastated. He had grown attached to the dog and didn't want to see it harmed. His doubts about his mother's state of mind resurfaced. "Did you see? How can we do that?" he questioned. "This is all the work of evil," their mother muttered, her voice trembling. "It's trying to make us kill each other." Reluctantly, she readied her crossbow, determined to put the dog down to survive. But before she could act, Nolan appeared, holding a knife. "There is no evil here," he shouted, desperate to convince her. "Listen to me." Without a second thought, Nolan cut the rope tied to his mother and locked her inside the greenhouse. He believed that if he could just explain, he could show them there was no evil. Their fear was unnecessary. But as he tried to calm his family, evil, in the form of a woman, appeared before his mother. She advanced toward her, and the mother, terrified of what would happen if she didn't act, grabbed a shard of glass. With a swift motion, she cut the woman's throat, killing her in a desperate attempt to protect her children. But in doing so, she sealed her own fate. Her body fell lifeless to the ground. Sam, who had heard the commotion, quickly arrived at the scene and saw his mother's body. The grief overwhelmed him. He broke down, unable to process the loss. Nolan, witnessing his brother's pain, felt an intense wave of regret. He had made a terrible mistake. He should have listened to his mother. Now, for the first time, he truly believed in evil. In a desperate act of redemption, he tied the rope around himself, realizing that his mother had been right all along. But Sam's condition continued to worsen. The injury and lack of care were taking a toll on him. The loss of their mother made everything more difficult. Sam was struggling to survive, clinging to the rules their mother had instilled in them, but hunger and fear were constantly gnawing at him. One day, as Nolan was searching for food in the jungle, he wandered onto a road and called out for help, but there was no response. Returning home, he was startled when a man appeared behind him. The man explained, "I heard your voice. I was passing by with my son, and we came here to help you. Are you okay? What do you need?" "I'm a hacker." Nolan, wary and skeptical, instantly feared this man might be another trick of evil. He wondered if the stranger was actually evil in disguise, trying to deceive him and his brother. Despite the man's attempt to help, Nolan couldn't bring himself to trust him. The possibility that this was a trap from evil was too real, and Nolan couldn't afford to make another mistake. Weak and sick, Sam emerged from the house with his mother's crossbow, his eyes filled with anger and revenge. Despite his frail state, the loss of his mother to the evil had ignited a fierce desire for vengeance. "You killed her," he taunted the stranger, his voice shaky but resolute. The man tried to remain calm, explaining that he had no knowledge of the evil Sam spoke of. "I didn't kill your mother, and I don't know anything about the evil you're referring to," he said. "I just came here to help, but I see you're not ready to listen. I'm leaving now." Nolan, who was still unsure about the man, turned to Sam and tried to reason with him. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he's not evil. But Sam was consumed by rage and refused to listen. As the man began to leave, Sam's anger took over. Without hesitation, he aimed the crossbow and fired. The arrow struck the man in the back, severely wounding him. The man fled into the jungle, but Nolan followed him, unsure of what to believe. When Nolan returned home, he opened the man's bag, finding food, important supplies, and photos, proof that the man was indeed human. Realizing his mistake, Nolan felt a deep regret. He was hungry and exhausted, but the realization of what he had done weighed heavily on him. Later that night, Sam heard a voice outside. A young girl stood there, claiming she had been waiting for her father, but he hadn't returned. Sam, devastated by his actions, confessed to the girl that he had mistakenly killed the man, thinking he was evil. Shocked and frightened, the girl ran, and Sam, overcome by guilt and fear, chased after her. His mind spiraled into delusion as he began seeing visions of evil around him, making him doubt everything. Meanwhile, Nolan ventured into the jungle in search of his brother. As he returned home, he found Sam in the same room, but something had changed. Sam, no longer himself, attacked Nolan, determined to kill him. The house was set ablaze as Sam, now fully under the influence of evil, locked Nolan inside. Trapped in the flames, Nolan saw the ghostly image of his mother and finally faced the truth. The fire attracted rescuers, who rushed in to save him. As Nolan was pulled out of the jungle, he was shocked to discover that the world had not ended as his mother had claimed. It was all a lie. The world was still inhabited, and his mother had kept him isolated, fearing the evil would destroy everything if it left. The movie concluded with a haunting image: Sam's camera, abandoned in the jungle, still holding a picture of the family. The final shot showed Sam, with the evil's hand on his shoulder, suggesting that the evil had always been part of their family, trapped in the house, hidden from the outside world. Sam, now free, carried the evil with him, and the world was at risk of being destroyed. The story ended with a chilling realization that, despite all the lies and isolation, the evil was real, and now no one could stop it. With this, the movie ends. If you liked this video, then do not forget to subscribe to the channel after liking the video.